Today we plan and organize our spring-summer 2020 collection. This lesson is notebook before sketchbook. Before we start sketching, we need to consult, we need to think, we need to brainstorm all the little details, what you're gonna have in the collection, everything before we hit the sketchbooks. So let's begin. So guys, I know you guys are so eager to start sketching. We have our mood board, we have our color story, all from the last two lessons, but there is one important step before we start, and that is to write down all of your ideas for the collection. Organize it in your mind before you start sketching. I have created a PDF for you guys to download from my website, which is going to help you in this step. So I recommend the first thing you do is click on the link in the description box, and that'll take you to my website where you can download this form, and then we can follow along and do it together. So guys, the collection planner, which you have now hopefully downloaded, is a form that I created that kind of helps you organize all your thoughts and everything that you're thinking for the collection as you are finding the inspiration, as you're doing the colors, everything that's in your mind. This is the time to put it on paper before you start sketching. So it's a step that's often overlooked and can result in a disorganized collection that seems sort of random. This is one of the steps that I personally do that I think is responsible for the fact that my collections are often cohesive. They tell a story, the pieces are related to each other, so I end up with a very tight-knit collection and a point of view. So if you want to achieve that, I highly suggest you fill out this form and not go straight to sketching. Sketching we will do in the next lesson, but right now we are just organizing all our thoughts so that we know where we are going with this collection. So now that you have your forms, I'm going to go through the different parts of the form so that we can fill it out together based on the inspiration we found in the previous two episodes. And then you can also fill it out based on any inspiration that you have found on your own. So let's begin. Okay, so I have my form here. I've filled it out already, but I'm going to walk you through it and show you on the screen what I have filled out. So the first three questions are, what season is it? Of course, we know spring, summer 2020. The concept. This is where you start thinking, putting into words a small title for whatever we found on the mood board. So I just put Oriental East meets Arabia because, of course, the inspiration is from the Orient, it's from China, but what I'm eventually going to do with it is, mix it in with Middle Eastern styles, kaftans, things like that. So that is, for my brand, what I would do. Number of looks. This is a point where you can kind of decide how big you want to go. I'm thinking for this collection, it's going to be a capsule collection. So I'm sticking to 10 looks. Any smaller than that, I think it becomes difficult for customers to shop from your collection because you need some variety. It's great that a customer can come to you and buy multiple things from your collection as opposed to just one thing and they're gone. So I like to keep at least 10 different looks in a collection to make it marketable and make it appealing. Size options. Now this is completely up to you and your brand. I stick to a size range that works for me and my customers. So I have a small medium size usually, and I have a medium large size, and then I have a free size, which is very open and usually can fit almost anyone. You can choose to circle any one of these options. So you might want to go with the way that I go with, which is small, medium, medium large, and free size. Or if you really want to cater to more people and have more specific sizes, you can go for the traditional S, M, L, XL, as far as you want to go. So this is just a decision you need to make based on how you see your customers and what suits them. So based on my experience, this works for me. So now I'm going to put the next section of the form, which is types of volumes to follow. By volume, I mean what is going to be the general fit of your clothing. Are you making a collection that's very loose or that's more structured and fitted? Based on our inspiration, I feel like the volumes are very big. They are generous. They are flowy. They are, kind of like rich, voluminous kimonos and things like that. So I have ticked the loose and flowy volume, which I think will suit not only my brand, but also the inspiration. And then next to it, you see general volume. Now, I've just kind of drawn some general shapes that you can go on based on what kind of volume you want. So if you want a square cut of clothing, you want a more fitted hourglass shape. So I've ticked the square and the sort of A-line shape for me to follow. What kind of styles and how many of each? So this is where you start to think about what exactly are the pieces you think you're going to design. So when I see this inspiration, I see kimonos 100%. I'm going to do kaftans because that is what I do as a brand. Based on like that one picture we saw of the top and skirt, I do want to include a cord set that customers can buy to wear with the kimonos. So I think that creates like a good mix of things in the collection. And I will do 2 cord tops and pants, so that gives some variety, and 3 kimonos and 3 kaftans. So I think that's quite a balanced collection. You have something that you know you can buy as separates, the kimono, or you can have the top and pants, and you can have the kaftan. Next is details and cuts. So what are you thinking in terms of the cut of the clothing? I saw in the collection that I loved the borders everywhere on the sleeves and everything. I'll put a picture of what I'm talking about. So I want to include border cuts and little like sectionings off of the sleeves and things like that. I want to include that in the collection. So I have wrote the use of borders. I want wide sleeves. I'm sticking to more square cuts and more straight cuts because that's what I saw in the mood board. I'm going to keep the cuts voluminous, and I like the cross body details that are seen in the mood board. So a lot of the borders going across the chest and down the body. I want to kind of incorporate that in the cuts of the kaftans or the kimonos. And even the tops, you could make a cute top with a cross detail. Next is accessories. So this is usually where I put whether I want belts or basically belts, if I want belts or not. If you, of course, think of any other accessory, if you want like a detachable collar or you want something like that, that is also something you can put in this section. But I have written that I want belts with this collection with tassels because I think that's very oriental, that's very on my brand, so I'm definitely going to include that into this collection. Moving on to the next section, decorative details and fastenings. So for decorative details, I've put 3 things. I've put fabric manipulation, tassels, and piping. This area is kind of flexible. If I have not mentioned a detail that you would want to include in your collection, you can just write it down anywhere on the paper. But fabric manipulations would include if you want something like pleating on your collection, or you want some sort of shearing, or any sort of details on your collection that include the fabric being sewn in a different way or in a certain way that creates a texture. I don't really see this fit for our collection, so I'm not gonna use that. Tassels, it's just something that I put. Of course, you're gonna find tassels on my collection planner sheet because I use a lot of tassels and things like that in my collections. And yes, I will be again using them for the spring summer 2020, and I will make it as part of my belt. And then piping I see appropriate for this collection because of all the borders, and you do see it in the inspiration as well, so I will be using piping in this collection also. Fastenings, this is just a little bit technical but also aesthetic, so just how you think most of your collections are going to be put on and off. So is there going to be a zipper system? Is there going to be buttons? Because I see this collection being a bit more formal and elegant, and it's just so rich and royal looking, I want to do buttons for my collection. I think it's nicer than just having a zipper. So I chose buttons, and I want to have like golden round buttons for this collection. So I've just written that down. The next section is fabric types and embroidery, my favorite. So for this collection, I want to use satin. I see satin used a lot right now, and I'm craving to use it. So I've put satin down. I've put jacquard because you can see like the jackets in the inspiration are made with like this beautiful gold jacquard or brocade fabric, so I want to put that in. Moss crepe, it's like a textured crepe fabric. I want to use it for an alternative to all the satin styles because you cannot have a collection full of satin. I want that to be more of a matte option for the kaftans and the kimonos that has a bit more fluidity and it drapes nicely around the body. So jacquard and brocade would be more structured fabrics, and the satin and the crepe would be more flowy fabrics. The next section is embroidery styles. So just off the top of my head, what I was thinking when I saw the mood board is that you need to think about two things. So you need to think about the motive. What is going to be the actual imagery in the embroidery? Is it going to be geometric? Is it going to be organic? Is it going to be floral? So I think for this collection, I see it as a floral embroidery and also ornamental. And by ornamental, I mean like the Chinese shapes that you see, the things that aren't really geometric, but they're not floral. It's more like decorative details. Maybe ornamental can be used as like leaves and things like that. The next is the materials for your embroidery. So I have listed 7 different common embroidery materials here that you could use. Of course, you can write down any other things that you may discover or want to use. So I think for this collection, Chinese embroidery, I see a lot of it as being thread embroidery, very detailed colored thread embroidery as well as gold thread embroidery. So I want to stick to that and stay true to the inspiration, but I also want some texture and some like shininess to my embroidery, so I'm putting beads down as well, and I'll see how we can use that later on in the design stage. But this is what I'm thinking for the embroidery. The last section is just free sketching. This is just a place where you can put down any sort of ideas that you may have already for your collection. So that is the collection planner and how to fill it out. I know this lesson was a bit intensive and very wordy, but this step is very important, you guys. And now we have a clear idea of what our collection is going to be before we jump into the sketching phase, because the sketching phase is the most fun phase and it's where you can go crazy and all your ideas really start to come to life. But if you don't approach that stage with a clear idea of what you want to achieve, it can go haywire and you can get lost. So please download my form. It's for free, and I hope it helps you put your ideas down and at least gets you thinking about all the different things that you need to think about when you're thinking about making a collection. So it's not just sketches, fabric, production. There are so many things you need to think about before you start. So I hope this helps, and I will see you guys in the next lesson.